Where do I start? You know, I'm at the Future of Educational Technology Conference, FETC, in Miami, Florida, and I had this plan scoped out of how I would do some B-roll video and how I would do some photography. And every day is a new location. Every day could be a new video. I could have made videos that would have lasted for the next, several, 4 or 5 postings at least. Nope. So, I'm here to talk about what has happened and maybe show you a couple of pictures along the way. So, I started out the week okay. Took some B-roll footage even before I left the house. I was going to make this montage, having coffee, getting ready, doing the suitcase, going to the airport, blah, blah, blah. Started putting that video together and realized that I did okay at home. I didn't have any B-roll footage at Chattanooga Airport. The footage outside the plane in flight was boring. I did a couple of B-roll shots at the Charlotte airport, which didn't add anything to the continuity of my video. And so after struggling through everything, I decided, you know what, this is just not working. So one of the things that I learned this week at FETC by listening to Daniel Pink is this: when it comes to good news and bad news, if we're the one telling the news, typically we like to start with the good news and move to the bad news, because we like to ease into things so that we can sort of put people at ease before we have to give them the bad news. When we're on the receiving end, we want the bad news first because we want to end on an uptick. We want to know the good news last because we'll feel better when the conversation is over. So I'm going to try that today. I'm going to start with the bad news. The bad news about this video, and we'll end on a high note with the good news. And we'll go from there. So, first things first. So, just to be clear, this is not bad news about the trip. The trip's been great. This is bad news about me making video. So, one of the things that I've learned, one of the things that went wrong is that I didn't plan any continuity to the B-roll of my video, and that was a definite problem, because I didn't know from one clip to the next what I needed in my shot. I should have planned it out. I should have done a better job of sort of scripting out the things that I need. And so I'm going to practice again on the way home to see if I can do something a little different. But that was the first mistake I made. Now, in addition to no continuity and no plan, there is the problem of not knowing what I'm doing. And so I was taking most of the video on the Canon M50, and it's really small, and I'm not so steady yet with being able to sort of move things around smoothly. Now, I did get a few shots, I think, that work, and I may put those in somewhere in this video if I am bold enough to do that. So the second problem that I ran into was that I really did not know what I was doing with the camera, where I should be at 23.9 whatever frames per second, where I should be at 60 frames, where I should be at 120 frames, how that all fits together. Again, I needed a continuity plan. So that's the second thing that went wrong. And the third thing that went wrong in this video project was that I made a commitment to myself at the beginning of the year that I was going to try to start doing all of my editing in DaVinci Resolve rather than Camtasia. Now, I love Camtasia, and it's great for educational purposes to put vlogs together and things like that for the classroom, and tutorials and screencasts and all of that. I use it a lot for that. But for these videos, my video channel on YouTube, I decided that I needed something a little more robust that would allow me to do more color grading and those kinds of things, and So, and the move to DaVinci Resolve is not what the problem was. The problem was that the project was overly ambitious for me to try to do on a piece of software I have not learned yet. So this video that I'm putting together now has been done in DaVinci Resolve, and it will be much easier because I'm not trying to do little 1-second clips here, 1-second clips there, different kinds of pans and cuts, and I'll learn how to do that over time. There is one other problem with this trip, and that was, it's minor, it has nothing to do with the video, but you know, some time ago I bought a polarizing filter to help me with waterfalls and that kind of stuff, and then I go down to the beach. I'm on the beach for a week, and never once do I put the polarizing filter on a camera. I just don't understand. But so that's the sort of the parameters of the failures. Now, I'm an educator. You can see that by the FETC sign behind me. I'm an educator. So I know that failure is part of the process, no question. I don't mind the failing. I don't mind the learning process. I don't mind trying to get to where I'm going, even if it's slow and cumbersome, and I don't know what I'm doing half the time, or 90% of the time. The frustrating part of the failure is that I have promised to put it out here on YouTube, where the 20 or 30 people that are actually going to watch this video are going to be, I'm going to be exposed to them with the failures that I've done. But enough of the failure. It's time to turn our attention to the positives of this trip and the video process. One of the things I got right was the lens. So as part of this sort of trial run on taking a vacation with limited equipment, I packed some things I thought I needed. I packed the travel tripod rather than my heavy tripod. That does have some limitations, but I'm working with that. I've packed all the neutral density filters that I own, and I've packed the intervalometer. I have packed the L bracket for my camera, so that I can quickly change from portrait to landscape with no problem. A few other odds and ends that I've put in the backpack. But the most important thing was the lens. So a friend of mine, another photographer named Stephanie Richer, hi Stephanie, she recommended, as I was deliberating on getting a new RF lens for the EOS R, and I was deliberating between the 15 to 35 or the 70 to 200, because they both had f-stops like 1.8 or something, but they were $2,600 a piece, and I was just thinking, how in the world can I afford $2,600 for one of these lenses? So she recommended the 24 to 105, which is basically the kit lens. When I bought my camera, I bought it used, so I did not get a lens with it. So I bought the kit lens of the 24 to 105. It has an f4, but the nice thing about it is that where most telephoto lenses, the longer you go from 24 millimeter to 105 millimeter, the f-stop starts closing down, so that it makes it more and more difficult to get a fast shutter speed. This lens is f4 straight through, so no matter what telephoto I'm using, it's just f4. So in all the pictures that I have taken on this trip, I have never taken this lens off. And that is huge for being able to pack light. There was no reason for the 85 millimeter 1.8. There was no reason for the 60 millimeter macro. There was no reason for the 24 millimeter pancake. I mean, all these other lenses that I've sort of had fun with and all that, they were not useful for this trip. I did bring a 10 to 22 that I have never put on the camera. Now, if I was going inside a cathedral or some other architectural building where I could use my Platypod or this small tripod here, I would probably put that on, because it just allows me to get a little bit more of the building and a little bit more drama into the photo. But for everything that I've done so far, the 24 to 105 has been fantastic, and the only thing that I would hope as I go to Italy is that I don't drop it.
One of the other things that has been a positive from this trip is what's come out of the failures of this trip. And that is, when I decided to redo the entire video to just these little snippets of me talking about what went wrong and what went right, I purposely tried to record in different environments, different light settings, different sound settings, to see how well the M50 worked, to see how well the microphone above works, and to see what the difficulties would be when I got it into DaVinci Resolve. And what I found is, for instance, I had this scene that was earlier, and it's really, really yellow, and it's really, really dark. I had the ISO set wrong. I had the exposure compensation set wrong. I had the white balance on auto. And so I pulled it into DaVinci Resolve and tried to fix it. And it turned out like this. And so then I thought, you know what, there is no fixing this. So I made it black and white. Which is something that I've learned from photography, is that if you've got an image that's just not working, try it in black and white. So it's helping me to adjust the settings on my Canon M50 to know, right now I've got it all auto, and I should probably be shooting in manual so that I can set the ISO where I want it. But exposure compensation may be enough. So in this particular video, I've increased the exposure compensation by 1/2, just to make it a little brighter inside the shadow of the car. And hopefully when I bring it in, and I've also reset the white balance to sunshine because that's what's outside. And hopefully when I bring it into DaVinci Resolve, this particular clip will be much easier to edit. And that brings us back home. I have enjoyed the time in Miami. I have enjoyed the time kind of learning what I'm doing, and it comes down to the last positive thing that I want to share about this trip, and that is the setup that I'm using for vlogging. Now I have two choices available to me. I have the Canon M50, and it's on a Manfrotto tripod. I'll go through that in a minute. And then I have the whatever it is, the Q2 with my phone and an external microphone. Now, what I really like about this setup right here, first of all, I can immediately take this to a tripod. I can also take it to just a little taller tripod if I want to set it down somewhere. It's very lightweight. I use the kit lens, so the kit lens is really, really small. And it worked great. And all of the audio up until this clip, all of the audio has been with this microphone. And it's turned out really nice, even outside in windy weather. So I really like this. However, I feel very self-conscious with it when I am in enclosed spaces. For instance, I had this with me the entire trip on the airplane, in the airport, and I was hesitant to take it out and film myself because it's so big that it would bring so much attention to me, and that's a problem for me. As an introvert, as somebody who's very private, who's very embarrassed to be doing this out in public anyway, so I've got to get over that. But that brings me to this possibility, because for some of the things that I'm going to do, this would do the trick very, very nicely. I've tried this in some instances outside, and I can't get very decent video. I'm trying it with the Filmic Pro, and I don't have the settings on that set up just right yet. But for personal vlogging, to do interior vlog shots of me talking, this is much, much smaller, less noticeable, and I feel a little more comfortable with it. So moving forward, I've got both of those options available to me. Now, in the time that I spent in Miami, I was trying out a new lens, I was trying out a camera, I was trying to figure out how the lens operated, that kind of stuff. I really didn't take a lot of really super duper whooper whopper shots, but I did take a few. And so we will close out this video with just a few of those shots just to sort of show you how the lens operated. They may not be the most beautiful shots in the world, and they may look more like snapshots than photos, but we'll see. So I'll put those up here as we close out. And then when we come back next time, we'll start over and get this year rolling off on a positive note.